Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun.
Barney Stinson, how may I direct my penis?
You.
So here it is, the best story-related DLC ever made, Torna The Golden Country. It isn't without its issues, and I'm still on the fence about whether or not someone who hasn't played Xenoblade Chronicles 2 could truly enjoy this as a standalone game, but I absolutely loved it. Let's get the boring stuff out of the way first. Torna The Golden Country is a prequel story set 500 years before the events of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Expansion Pass owners can access it now by updating their Xenoblade Chronicles 2 game and launching Torna The Golden Country from the title screen. Torna The Golden Country will also be getting a standalone physical release on the 21st of September. It can be played regardless of whether or not you own the main Xenoblade Chronicles 2 game. That last bit is what has had me debating myself. Could this really be played as a standalone experience? In terms of gameplay, it's far more approachable than the main game, it does a better job of explaining the systems to the player, it's much shorter in length, the new gameplay elements add a lot of convenience, and it moves along at a much faster pace. Well, most of the time, but we'll talk about that in a minute. The reason it's hard to endorse this as a proper standalone experience is down to the story. You absolutely would be able to follow it. There are very few things that you wouldn't understand as a newcomer, but I'm not quite sure if a newcomer would truly enjoy it. I tried to make notes whenever I felt tremendous satisfaction, and a lot of those moments were born of things that you would only know if you played the main Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It's not that you wouldn't understand these moments or that you wouldn't get satisfaction from them, but knowing certain things from the main game increases the impact greatly. And speaking of impact, my god does Torna The Golden Country have it. The main story will set you back 15 to 20 hours, but not all of that is main story related. It's very little compared to the main game, which will run you 70 or 80 hours for the main story, but they both have the same amount of big impactful moments, the ones that shock you or really make you think. So comparatively, Torna's story has far more impact overall. You just move from one big story moment to the next. The final 2 or 3 hours is an emotional roller coaster. Like I said earlier though, it isn't without its faults. As you are progressing through the story, you will hit a side quest roadblock a couple of times. I call them side quest roadblocks because the game forces you to complete a certain number of side quests before you can continue with the main story, similar to the debt system in Tales of Xillia 2. This is facilitated by the newly introduced community system. Completing side quests will add people to your community. The more people in your community, the more side quests open up. It's actually a brilliant way to organize and track side quests, something that the main Xenoblade Chronicles 2 could really use. There are 2 points in Torna's story where progress is locked behind a certain community level, which forces you to complete side quests to add enough people to your community to level it up. The first time this happened, it actually wasn't bad. I'm the type of person who does a lot of this side content before progressing the main story anyway, and I was only 1 or 2 side quests off continuing the main story when I hit that roadblock. The second time this happens though, which is also the last time, takes quite a bit more work. This actually doesn't bother me in any way though. This type of game design is built for the way that I enjoy games. I play them like this anyway. Even if I wasn't forced to do a bunch of side quests before finishing the main story, I would have done them regardless. I try to postpone the end of a game I'm really enjoying as much as possible, except when I have a review due for them of course. I do see how this type of thing would annoy other people though, not everybody likes this kind of padding. You probably won't want to leave Torna in a hurry though, it's bloody gorgeous. There are only 2 titans you can visit, Gormott, which is quite a bit different in the very distant past, and Torna itself. But Torna is huge and quite possibly the best designed titan of any of them, including all the ones in the main game. I fell in love with Torna. It's got a ton of variety and it's so damn pretty, especially the capital. I was getting Primordia vibes from Xenoblade Chronicles X quite a few times, but then it would just up and change to something completely different, like a vast desert with massive sand dunes. I liked the soundtrack more than the main game too, apart from the new version of Gormott's daytime track, which I wasn't overly fond of. Every other track though is brilliant. There is a bit of crossover with the main game, but the new tracks just blew me away. The way some of them were used, especially in scenes with Malos, was just amazing. It seems like we were on a roll here with things I liked more than the main game, so let's continue with the combat. I love the new mechanics. Combat seems a bit faster too, the enemies seem to be less tanky overall, and you deal more damage as a battle goes on, which really helps to stop a fight overstaying its welcome. It's very similar to the combat in the main game, you still auto-attack to charge abilities, but now there is a big emphasis on switching. Rather than your blade just being a blade, they help you out from the backline with buffs and occasional attacks, but you can also switch your main character to the backline and turn your blade into the active fighter. This has a ton of benefits, including regenerating health, recharging abilities, and a special ability is also performed on the switch that usually inflicts an effect like topple or even smash. The reduced character roster and lowered emphasis on blades did wonders for field skills as well. Field skills was one of the most painfully irritating parts of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, having to constantly switch blades just to get the correct field skills, then switching back to the blades you actually want to use in combat. Field skills are still a thing in Torna The Golden Country, but as there are only 3 party members that all have 2 blades each, all your field skills are equipped all of the time, no switching needed. All in all, Torna The Golden Country is brilliant. I've spent 32 hours with it so far and haven't yet completed all the side content. It even has a new game plus mode that's just like the one for the main game. With Torna capping off all the other content added, the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 expansion pass has become the benchmark for DLC. Quantity, quality, value, and it all ends with the sheer brilliance of Torna The Golden Country. Thanks for liking, subscribing, and sharing, and I'll see you all soon.